Thank you for joining us on today's episode of Tax Matters. We want to begin by wishing all our viewers and all Nigerians Merry Christmas and a very happy year 2023. It has been a very busy and fulfilling year in the world of taxation, with events and activities happening at a fast pace. At the FIRS, it has been a hugely successful year, and in due time, the story of that success will be told on Tax Matters. Apart from tax collection, which is its major remit, the FIRS successfully hosted 2 international conferences to round off the year. ITAF's 7th General Assembly, which held from the 30th of October to the 4th of November 2022, and the 42nd Annual Technical Conference of Qatar, which held from the 28th of November to the 1st of December 2022. And talking about Merry Christmas, the Muhammadu Buhari administration is putting in its best to ensure that all Nigerians celebrate the Yuletide and the birth of the New Year in comfort. On Monday, the 28th of November 2022, the train service between Abuja and Kaduna resumed operations after 8 months of suspension. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway has resumed its old glory as a true expressway with the very near completion of the entire length and breadth of the road. The Federal Ministry of Works has ensured that the gridlock that was experienced on that road a few months back has been eased, and there is a firm promise that early in 2023, the job will be fully completed. Needless to say that the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is the artery from the commercial capital of Nigeria, Lagos, to the east, the south, the west, and the north of Nigeria. And the big one, on Thursday, the 15th of December 2022, the iconic second Niger Bridge linking Delta State to the east was declared open to traffic, pending minor completion activities to be carried out early in 2023. This is a big relief to travelers to the eastern part of the country in this Yuletide season. See, taxpayers' money in action. Kudos to the Federal Ministry of Works. Kudos to the Muhammadu Buhari administration. Thank you for staying with us. Still on the matter of taxpayers' money in action. The question that comes to mind from time to time is, where do our taxes go? How are proceeds from tax revenue utilized? On Thursday, the 8th of December 2022, the FIRS and the G2C interface jointly collaborated to host taxation stakeholders to a seminar on tax in present-day Nigeria. G2C interface is the acronym for Government to Citizens Interface, a medium for government and citizens to interact, to jointly identify and to solve national problems. We want to share with you excerpts from the 2 panel sessions held at the event. Panel 1 was on your obligations as a taxpayer, while panel 2 was on tax utilization. Where do our taxes go?
We encourage for people to pay their taxes. We've sort of tried to touch on where some of that money or some of those monies go, but in what ways are we then solidly trying to build trust, both in the system that is collecting these taxes and then in the government or that is utilizing that tax or those taxes for the people.
When it comes to taxation, there are 3 pillars. One is trust. The second one is facilitation. And the third one is enforcement. So the very first one is this trust that you have mentioned. And the only way we can build trust is obviously by the government doing with the money, doing the right, using the funds that have been raised, even though they are not adequate if we are honest with ourselves, but using it judiciously by having a more efficient budget. Now, if you look at the federal government budget, because Nigeria is a federation, but we can look at, for simplicity, we can look at just the federal government. The federal government has so many responsibilities, and some of them the states cannot do, and that includes security and military as well. It also includes the national highway. All these things are the responsibilities of the federal government. Now, to build that trust, government has to find a way to execute all these projects so that people can see clearly. We need to create an environment where Nigerians are willing and able to invest and to be excited actually about being Nigerians.
This is an interface, right, between the government and its citizens. There are people on the other side that see even FIRS as a tax collector as part of government. Citizens would always see FIRS, you're collecting my money, you're part of the government. So how are we, bridging that gap? And to also say that while I'm collecting this money, I'm still on your side.
It's kind of a dilemma for the FIRS. Talking about taxation first, we have what we call the tripods of taxation. And you start from what we call the tax policy, we have the tax legislation, and we have the tax administration. Now, you have from the tax policy, government on one hand saying this is how we want to tax, who we want to tax, where we want to tax. And so there's a vision to which that's also determine where they spend the money and what they use it for. Now, you have the legislators who also say how the law to tax them. And you now have the tax administrators, which is the FIRS. Now, FIRS now rely on the government policy, rely on the legislation to also do its work. Now, FIRS is also in between now government on one side, whether it's legislature or executive, and the taxpayer on the other side, because FIRS runs errand for government. So the person you're going to meet, you also need to please that person, find a way to ensure that that person, as much as you said, okay, I have the law, I need to compel, you have to pay. You also find a way to ensure that as the man is paying, you are not, it's not doing that with pay. So what do we do as FIRS? Now, we ensure we do the first one, which is sensitization, tax education. So you let that person know his role. Normally, we would have said ignorance of the law. It's not an excuse. So we can slam the hammer. But however, we know that the first rule to even making people comply with the law is to first educating them. Let them know what their obligations are. Aside from tax education, we ensure that we also let them, sometimes we also want to do from the side of government and say, okay, we notice that we've remitted this much to you. Government, from which angle, please, can we also be carried along to see what you've done with them? And recent time, we've been trying to engage government to even come up with documentaries, come up with things to go and see for ourselves too, so that we can also communicate same to taxpayer. Because many times when we go to engagement like this, people say, okay, you are collecting this much. You are telling me I should pay this, I should pay that. What are you doing with them? So we need to also make people know our role. Aside from that, also to let them know what government is doing with this money. We try to bring rules, administrative rules that makes it easy for taxpayer to pay these taxes. In line with the powers we have, there are some discretionary powers that's given to the FIS board and service to do some things. Like I'm sure you are aware, in the COVID-19 era, we had to suspend some of our rules to ensure that taxpayers can remit their taxes with ease. We have to extend the filing period for taxpayers. Normally, if you pay taxes after a certain time, or you're filing after a certain time, we have what we call late returns penalty that we're supposed to slam. We have to suspend this to ensure that our taxpayers too, we understand your plight. And so, because we are all in it together, please, come and pay your taxes. We give you extension, come and pay. In recent time, we know that sourcing foreign exchange have been tough. We had to suspend, okay, for some people who were supposed to remit their taxes in foreign exchange, we had to, okay, no problem, we allow you to remit this in Naira, because we believe that it's tough on them too. Business is not. So we keep on coming up within our powers to come up with innovative ideas, things that we can use, so that we too are also trying to be careful not to also breach the law. Like we say, tax is law. And so wherever you're doing taxation, you need to follow the law strictly.
I think that the most important thing that would encourage people, apart from the sensitization, to comply will be transparency and accountability and openness in the way that the money is being spent. So that means every citizen who sees that there are roads, who sees there's infrastructure, who sees that education is doing well, who sees that there are social amenities and all of that, will actually themselves now want to say, I want to be part of this. I will have to be paying my tax so that I'm part of this whole equation.
To round it all up, there was a chairman and convener conversation session at which the executive chairman FRS was represented by Dr. Dick Iri, coordinating director compliance support group at the FIRS. It was moderated by Mr. Bode Bore.
I remember that the first idea I ever knew about tax was wealth redistribution, which you mentioned, and then even distribution of national wealth. I really want to know what you've done so far as, FIRS as a whole, in corporate social responsibility so far.
Tax is actually a fiscal instrument which government can use to actually drive wealth distribution, and there it comes in the form of, in terms of the progressive nature of the tax system that you have in place, and that's where you see the higher you earn, for example, in your income, from your income, you pay more tax from it. And the clear example that anybody can actually identify with or flow with is what we call pay as you earn. Very simple, because you pay as much as you earn or as small as you earn. So this is one mechanism that government have put in place to ensure that the rich, those who earn more, pay more, and those who earn less, pay less. So that way the person who's earning more and have paid more is what is now made available, what he has paid made available for the common wealth of the citizenry to enjoy. I think the second question you asked is about corporate social responsibilities. Corporate social responsibility, as the name is what corporate entities do to support the environment where they operate. It will be too narrow to focus on what FRS as organization alone is doing in corporate social responsibility. I want to make it open and make it a bit broader so that all of us can really identify with it. The law have put in place provisions that encourage corporate entities to help their immediate environment or add something back to the society. And this one can be in form of donation, for example, which they can give to back to society. And the law allows some of such donation. They allow them as tax exempt or back out of profit before the tax rate is applied to their net profit. There is also issue of Order 07 that government have put in place, this tax infrastructure tax credit that is in place. We are operating in this environment. I'll take example, Dangote Industries, the Obajana Cement Company, for example. They operate in that Obajana area, and they said they can fix this road, one for the use of the general public, and also in doing that, government will recognize this effort and allow them to offset it from their future tax liability in the form of tax credits. So This order 07 has also come in to ensure that corporate entities put something back to the society, starting from their immediate environment and spread to others for all citizens to enjoy. The law also recognizes what we call rural investment, which was in the law that as a corporate entity, you go to a rural area and you can tie road, you can provide electricity, you can provide water, for example. You allow some what we call rural investment incentive for this thing you are doing. But in the spirit behind it is that you are actually adding value to the society. So these are all corporate social responsibility that corporate entities can embark upon, which the law allows, and we administer as a revenue agency.
Mrs. Okongo, you used a word that got my attention, safeguarding the nation. How does that give some benefit to the man under the bridge somewhere?
It's not about all of the percentages and the big grammar that we speak, about this percentage is GDP and all of that. Those people you are talking about don't know about that. Those people are interested in what they can benefit. So if Nigerians see that this money is being utilized for this, if I go to the hospital, I get a minimum level of treatment. If I get, for instance, like free education for my children in primary school, then I can contend with the other levels of education. So that really helps the man who is under the bridge.
In conclusion of this segment, we want to leave you with this wrap-up.
To create the Nigeria of our dreams, it is patriotic of every citizen to perform the civic duty of tax paying and consider this not just a personal contribution to nation building, but securing our future and the future of our children and their grandchildren. Taxation not only pays for public schools or public goods and services, it is also a key ingredient in the social contract between citizens and the economy. How taxes are raised and spent can determine a government's very legitimacy.
Again, taxpayers' money in action, or better still, taxpayers' money must be seen in action. Now, taxation is a technical field. There are men and women who are trained to practice as tax administrators and as tax practitioners. The Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria by law is the sole body responsible for the regulation of the practice of taxation in Nigeria. Towards this end, the CITN admits duly qualified men and women into its ranks, first as associate members and then, following the fulfillment of certain conditions, these associate members become fellows. On Friday, November 25th, 2022, the Institute held its 47th induction ceremony, at which 826 men and women were admitted and became licensed as registered tax practitioners. The induction ceremony was preceded by a 3-day pre-induction orientation program held from Tuesday the 22nd to Thursday the 24th of November 2022. Welcoming inductees to the 47th induction ceremony was Mr. Taufik Oretugar, Chairman Membership and Professional Conduct Committee of the CITN.
For us, induction ceremony is a remarkable event, and it represents the symbolic unleashing of a force of qualified tax practitioners and administrators who are the future leader in the field of taxation.
I heartily congratulate all our inductees for working assiduously in order to achieve this milestone in their respective professional careers. Let me use this opportunity of this platform to speak to members about the most pertinent issues in the tax profession in Nigeria today. It is given that taxation in the 21st century, fourth industrial revolution era, has transformed significantly. The use of big data, Internet of Things, and data analytics, among other digital complexities, has become the new world order, leading to the growth in e-commerce and online transactions. Despite the advantages linked to the expansion of the digital economy, several challenges have also originated. In the midst of these challenges, tax implications of the digitalized economy are perhaps the most urgent that bedevils revenue authorities, policymakers, governments, international organizations, and tax professionals. Tax administration in Africa and indeed Nigeria remain unclear on the most effective and efficient way to tax the digital economy. Yet the challenges arising from technological advancement and intricate business models continue to mount, thus increasing the likelihood of tax revenue leakages.
Special guest of honor was the chairman, Bayelsa State Board of Internal Revenue, Dr. Nimi Bofra Ayawe. Awards were presented to inductees who distinguished themselves in the April 2022 professional examination of the Institute. Among the awardees was Oni Kayode, the overall best student, who bagged 4 awards. And then the high point of the event, the formal admission of the inductees.
The 15th president, you have standing before you a total number of 826 prospective members. Some of them wrote and passed the Institute's professional examination. So we have 233 graduates from the professional examination, and then 593 applied for direct membership. They have all fulfilled the conditions set by council for the admission of members. Those that applied for direct membership have been trained by the Institute in the pre-induction orientation program from Monday 22nd to Thursday 24th November 2022. I hereby recommend that they should be admitted as associate members of the Institute.
I do solemnly swear that I shall always comply with the provisions of the Institute's charter, bear true allegiance to the Charter and Softization of Nigeria, obey all rules and regulations of the Institute from time to time,
In the evening of the same day, the CITN also hosted a glamorous annual dinner and award night.
This event is part of activities lined up in the Institute's calendar for the year to enable us to welcome our new members, confirm merit awards on the 7 individuals and organizations, to provide a platform for members to converge, to celebrate our achievement in the course of the year in a very serene environment.
Chief host at the annual dinner was the president of the Institute.
I am most pleased by the strategic role members have been playing in developing the tax profession, which beyond opinion, and I keep saying it, has become the hope of the nation.
It was a night of glitz and glamour with a heavy dose of appreciation in the form of the presentation of awards to different categories of deserving individuals and organizations. The CITN Merit Award was presented to Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos State.
We are giving an award to Mr. Governor, who happens to be a member of our institute. So can we give a round of applause?
The Executive Chairman, Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, Mr. Olubenga Olaleye, was also presented with the CITN Merit Award of the Year.
To Olufemi Festus Alabi, in recognition of his 10 years of meritorious service to the Institute.
Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Fiscal Policy Partner and Africa Tax Lead at PwC, was presented with Outstanding Service to Taxation Professional Award in the member category. Continental Broadcasting Services, owners of TVC, won the Electronic Media Award for the year 2022. In the print media category, this day newspaper carried the day. The Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA, was given Award of Excellence for the year 2022. The Tertiary Institution Award for 2022 was presented to the Federal Polytechnic Ilaro. This is where we draw the curtains on today's episode of Tax Matters as we wind down in the year 2022. Once again, Merry Christmas and a resoundingly successful year 2023. Thank you for watching.